Although I often emphasize that sales is a transfer of emotion, it's not always desirable that your client is driven by them. Even if emotions are positive and theoretically work in your favor, sometimes you need to cool them down. And despite it may sound absurd in the context of what has been said before, things are sometimes more complex than we would like to see them. Sales professionals know that people tend to change their minds. Perhaps you have personally experienced a similar disappointment when a client who promised you to place an order failed to do so. It's certainly very frustrating, but before you start to blame and condemn anyone, remember the last time you changed your mind in a similar situation. Do you ever get excited about something, but the next day all the enthusiasm evaporates and you give up on your plans? What a day before seemed to be a good idea, it doesn't stimulate your imagination the next day. Doubts rise in your head and you don't feel it anymore. You don't believe it will work for you. Ultimately, you let go of all actions you decide to take. That's how emotions work, and that's why your prospect doesn't fulfill declarations made under the influence of them. Evoking the emotions of urgency to close a sale makes sense only in certain situations, usually wherever it's possible to close the sale immediately. The key is to take advantage of the moment when the client is impressed by the presentation that has just been carried out. But let's be honest, how many important decisions are made this way selling business to business? Most require thorough analysis, and decision-making process is structured in a way that requires the approval and acceptance of more than one decision maker. And although the sales closing effectiveness is the highest right after the presentation, it's rarely possible to take advantage of it. Moreover, its foundations are very fragile. Client's declaration of buying, triggered by the emotion, will not stand the test of time. When the client cools down and gets the distance to the certain things, he will probably start to procrastinate. That's why closing a sale must include an emotional and rational factor. To avoid the buyer's remorse that might arise the next day, it's necessary to present rational argumentation. By lowering the level of emotion and then emphasizing rational arguments, it's possible to eliminate sales objections that arise when the client's emotions fall. But be careful, because this contains an element of risk. If the balance will be disturbed, you may destroy everything that has been built so far. Put simply, it's about switching the client from a state of euphoria to a state where he has more emotional control, bringing to the light of the day the hidden objections that lurk in the back of his head. If you are talking to a client about buying a product that will be ordered in a week or month, it's obvious that the client's declaration of buying a product made in the heat of the moment is very fragile. The client's emotions about you, your company, and offered solution will change and will not be as strong as at the moment of making the verbal declaration. Because it's predictable, you can take preventive action, which means putting the client in a state of mind in which he will be in a few days or weeks when emotions will subside and rational analysis of the pros and cons begins. Getting your client to make a decision on both the emotional and logic level greatly increases the likelihood of delivering on his promise. When finally the time comes to place the order, his internal state won't be different from the one in which he made the declaration. Emotions supported by logic will favor you. Your client will feel inner consistency and the deal will be closed successfully. Be careful though, because going too low from the state of excitement to more rational one can lead to a complete loss of interest in your offer. It's all about finding the right sweet spot. It's like landing a plane. You want to lower the flight from a high altitude, but you don't want to crash on the ground. It must be done skillfully and carefully. The plane needs to be smoothly put on landing strip. Keep that image in your mind every time you build a balance between emotion and logic in your client's mind.